Once again, ignoring the government-imposed curfew, 10,000 protesters are back on the streets of central Cairo tonight in their increasingly tense standoff with President Mubarak. Among them, opposition leader Mohammed ElBaradei, who told protesters, "What we have begun cannot go back." But on the sixth day of the protests, the Egyptian military staged its own show of strength and moved more tanks into the city centre. The army is now positioned at numerous key locations, including the 6th of October bridge around Tahrir Square, where the protesters have tonight gathered, along the Merit Basha Road and around the state TV station. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Jonathan Rugman has the latest from the streets of Cairo.
Thousands of Egyptians were in Freedom Square tonight, defying a curfew and defying their president. And packed among his people, Mohammed ElBaradei, speaking to them for the first time.
I came today to share with you a special day in the history of Egypt. As Egyptians, we have taken back our rights, and what we have begun cannot go back. We have basic demands. It is the end of the regime and to start a new phase.
The Americans are talking about transition in Egypt. But is this the man who can be a transitional figure? Is this the man to take Egypt to a better place?
I feel he's neutral, and he could form a neutral government and lead us out of this mess and get us into somewhere where we can actually choose whoever we want to be. We don't really have to choose today.
President Mubarak has not appeared in public, but sent his fighter jets screaming low over the capital instead. Scores of battle tanks deployed in the centre as Egypt's embattled president mounts a show of force. Today, Hosni Mubarak appeared on state television, flanked by his generals, showing just who was in charge. But whatever reassurance the armed forces could offer, it often felt as if nobody was in charge at all. In Freedom Square, a military truck was swamped by the crowd. Thousands marched through the army lines. "Go away," they shouted, demanding the end of the president's 30-year-old rule and demanding it now.
And we will not stop until he go out. Please, Mubarak, leave and let us leave.
A fire engine tried entering the square, and the crowd, fearing it would be water cannoned, swarmed towards it. The army firing into the air to hold them back. At one point, an army captain was paraded high after joining the protests. It's the first day of the working week here, but it seems many Egyptians still have rebellion in mind. The violence of this past week has added to the anger. A doctor showed us pictures he filmed during his hospital shift. Scores of people dead, he claimed, after police opened fire.
Everywhere, bodies everywhere, bodies, blood, a lot of blood, but real bullets, okay? Real bullets. I saw in 5 hours, more than 30 people were killed on the spot.
Cairo's old town has been closed down by fear. Streets are almost deserted in what is normally one of the most traffic-clogged cities in the world, and the police are nowhere. Despite the tanks here in the centre of Cairo, much of the capital is living in fear tonight, and Egyptians are taking the law into their own hands. Shops, banks, restaurants and airlines were attacked last night. The army has instructed Egyptians to defend themselves, and they are. Even a golf club is a weapon. We found Egypt's national clay pigeon champion using his shotgun to defend his home.
It's very terrifying. Everybody is defending their house, their wives, their sisters, their brothers, everything. We don't sleep.
And the looting makes some doubt whether the protests are such a good idea.
It is now democracy versus security. So we are just thinking, democracy or security. So we are now thinking, we are confused.
Which one would you prefer?
I'm confused.
Several jailbreaks have been reported. The army says it caught these escaped prisoners in the south of the city. State TV has broadcast these pictures, apparently to show that it is in control. But these protests show little sign of dying down. The battle of wills continues, and nobody knows who will give up first, the demonstrators or their unwanted president. Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, Cairo.